Hello, my name is Matt Clemens, and I'll be telling you today about my educational philosophy. So, I am a Deweyan soloist who uses student-centered project-based curriculum to contextualize academic content into real-world applications. And I'm going to use 5 points to explain just exactly what I mean by that. So, first and foremost, I believe that students learn best when they are intrinsically motivated by and interested in the content and or the teacher. And I do think it could be both. Uh, I think knowledge is best acquired when it answers a self-formed question. So you learn best when you're asking your own questions and then researching and answering those questions. Thirdly, I think schools should aim to prepare students not only for college and the workplace, but for all forms of adult life, including and especially civic duties and parenting. I think the idea of the classroom and specifically the teacher's role in them requires constant examination and expansion. Uh, and I also think that no matter what, students are always learning something, contrary to what any sorts of assessments might tell us. Just because they're not learning what we're trying to teach them doesn't mean that they're learning nothing. They are learning something, and that can actually be a scary thing when you think about it. So, my philosophy is shaped by four major theorists, actually, three major theorists and one theory. Uh, John Dewey has been hugely influential on me in this program and me as a teacher. Lately, I've really been into Nell Noddings and a lot of what she says we should be teaching, what schools should be doing, the roles of schools. Shugata Mitra has been really helpful for me this year as a teacher. His idea of self-organized learning environments. And then project-based learning, I've actually been incorporating in the most recent semester of my teaching, and it's completely reshaped the way I want to do things in my classroom, so much so that I'm already thinking of all the ways I'm going to incorporate it next year, and it's going to be a lot. So basically, I rely on Noddings and Dewey for what it means to learn what schools should teach and why students should learn it. And I kind of rely on Mitra and project-based learning to inform how that should happen. So, first point, students learn best when they are intrinsically motivated and interested. Dewey he really supported more than a few ideas that I try to champion, and this idea is one of them. He really believed when students are motivated to learn, when they recognize the value in learning, and when they're naturally interested in something, actual and productive learning can take place. And one way that Dewey and many others have helped keep students motivated and interested is by making content relatable and usable in their actual lives. I've had major success with this in my classes through project-based learning, which is something I'm going to talk about a lot in this presentation. And project-based learning is a great way to create hands-on activities for students that keep them interested and motivated, mostly because they're staying on task and they usually get to choose what they want to study in these assignments, and they're also asking and answering their own questions. Which leads us to the second point. Knowledge is best acquired when it answers a self-formed question. So this idea was actually something that Dewey envisioned as more of an attitude. You see the quote there. Dewey felt that the best education should form in students the desire to go on learning. And if you think about a society where we have people constantly evaluating their own ideas and testing those and trying to learn more and expanding their minds, that sounds a lot more ideal for healthy communication amongst people than stuff that we have today. The other thing to think about here, if real learning occurs when it can be applied to real life, then learning to form and answer your own questions is the first step in solving your own problems, which I think is, with learned helplessness, it's a thing I talk with my colleagues a lot about. It's something that I think is lacking in society today. Again, going back to project-based learning, that's a great way to incorporate these problem-based assignments. I just wrapped up a unit where students had to form their own question in the form of a social problem in in their own communities, and the results were astounding. It completely impacted the level of motivation and engagement in the class, and students were connecting with their families, their classmates. They were connecting with me. They were really responding to it in ways that were really encouraging for me. So I think, as far as what should schools teach, I think they should aim to prepare students for all facets of adult life. I mean, I think we should prepare kids for the next level at whatever grade level they're at, and eventually in high school we need to start preparing them not only for college but also for adult life. So Dewey, he this is also an idea he championed, kind of in a civic service, social responsibility type of way, and he believed that schools were social institutions, where kids are going to come out being socialized one way or the other, whether we teach them to or not. They're going to find out about themselves, and the way they mesh with school and the classroom and the teacher and the content is going to inform the type of person they are when they enter into society. Um, you have Nell Noddings, who talks a lot about content and curriculum, and I love what she has to say. Um, there are challenging conversations happening in society today, both politically and just socially in different neighborhoods. In the media, it's kind of all over the place. There are lots of movements happening, and if she's right, that's not good. Which is, she says the suppression of discussion and critical thinking in our educational system is widespread, and I tend to agree with her. The students that I see are not ready to engage in a deep enough level of critical thinking or discussion to be responsible, productive members of society. Um, in fact, so I try to incorporate those activities in my classroom. And then, secondly, she asked a good question: why is parenting not a central object of study in schools? Um, in my lifetime, schools and social programs have sought to curb teen pregnancy. I remember those programs when I was in school, and I mean, what better method of sexual prevention curriculum would be? Can you think of than actually teaching children about the challenges and requirements of parenting? And if students go ahead and decide to have kids, when they do, then we've at least done our part to prepare them for different strategies or different resources they have available to them when they actually go to do that. I think that could improve all of us in different social ways. So then you have the classroom and the teacher, and I think we really need a revamp on the idea of classroom and teacher. I got really interested in Shigata Mitra's idea of self-organized learning environments, or SOLs, which I have here. I actually replicated this experiment this year, where I gave the students a question and a topic, a project that they were interested in. So there was the motivating part, and they were asking their own questions. And then I kind of took them to the computer lab and turned them loose. And I treated the computer lab as a SOL. I let them form groups if they wanted to. I let them discuss and share work and compare, and it went brilliantly. I did it twice, and I got really good results both times. Um, so I really think we need to evaluate, what we think of when we think of teacher and classroom. I think, students. I actually polled people. If you ask students where they'd like to learn and where they're most productive, they're able to tell you. And the answer isn't always the traditional classroom. They love going to the computer lab and libraries. If you give them a worthy objective, they will stay on task, and they will use each other and computers and the internet all as devices to learn new information. Think about how you and I learn new information. Do we go sit and listen to someone give you notes? Well, maybe some of us still do, but even in this class right now, I haven't even met Dr. Johnson, and yet here I am forming my own learning and using the internet and my fellow classmates in the form of online discussion. When students are on task on their own, the teacher can be way more effective by roaming around and guiding. And this talks to the role of what the teacher might be in future classrooms. I've again used this, and I just felt more effective. I was able to work with students who needed it, and I was able to pay special attention to groups of all levels, and it really seemed to work for me and the students. And this is a quote that I'd like to include by Mitra. We need to look at learning as the product of educational self-organization. It's not about making learning happen, it's about letting it happen. I think that's very telling. I'm going to let that speak for itself. So I want to return to this idea that no matter what, students are learning something. By this, I mainly mean two things. So I think, we can talk about some people look at low test scores and say our students aren't learning anything, but they're learning something. And given a lot of the problems in society today, I'm asking myself what role schools are playing in that. I shudder what to think, based on the behavior I see sometimes on the nightly news out of people. I think about these people as students, and I wonder where did our schools go wrong? Not to say that the schools are ultimately the blame for everything, but certainly I think we could do more than we currently are, and asking our students to be responsible citizens and modeling what that looks like. Secondly, if students aren't passing our tests, then maybe our tests aren't asking the right questions. Assessments should be simply more intrinsically challenging and skill-based and not politically based or objective-laden. We should follow the lead of a lot of the countries around the world who excel in education, and we should move towards making our ultimate assessments all skill-based and project-based, where students, instead of having to recall information, are showing us what they have learned and what they know and what they're good at. It should be much more opportunity-based. I'm going to leave you with this slide. Don't take my word for it. Let the students speak for themselves. So I just wrapped up the project that I've been referencing through this entire presentation, and there's information about it on the screen. Here's 90 seconds of students in their own voices.
I feel like this project is really powerful speaking.
Like, I feel good because I could obviously talk about, like, what's going on in the world. And
as soon as you assigned it, it kind of touched. That's the first thing I wanted to do, so it touched home.
Like, even though we're just high school students and everything, like, we're like, our life is like this. But then doing this project has made me see, like, the bigger world. Like, things don't just happen in England. Things just don't happen in Florida. They happen all over.
I feel like it's giving, like, I think everybody an opportunity to look more into depth about what's going on.
So I really liked it because it gave us like an opportunity to like talk about what we are passionate about.
Some of my family members experienced this with police brutality.
Yeah.
So I was kind of proud to do the topic, and I was excited because I wanted to get a feel of this issue, and I wanted to see how I can change this issue for the better of the community and everybody else.
I'm not going to be as invested in something that I didn't get to choose from the beginning.
Okay.
Like in other classes, I'm assigned something, I have to do my research. Okay, if it's boring, it's boring. But this, like, it relates to me. I get to do something that relates to me, relates to my family, that hits home for me, my mother. Like, she thought it was wonderful that I did this project. And she's happy that I chose it. So she not only knows that, okay, well, you see that some people in your family are doing this. You know that you don't want to do it. Not only that, but you want to make a change about it. She thought that was great.